Thanks for having me here. It's indeed my honor and privilege to be presenting in the first session of Knowledge Nuggets. Um, so a few disclaimers before we start. Pretty much it's gonna be a one-way thing because it's gonna be me presenting. But at any point in time, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those questions in the question panel. We may not be able to take the questions while the session is in progress, but we have a good 15-20 minutes at the end of the session where I will go through each questions and we'll try to answer as many as possible. Uh, so great, I'll start. I hope all of you are doing fine in these testing times. And it's not easy, this lockdown period, and therefore you need to read a lot of books which are very inspirational. I usually stay away from inspirational books, but I finally managed to come across one which inspired me a lot and also gave me a lot of perspective in life. And this session, I'm going to talk about that book and share some of my knowledge with you. So yes, this book gave me this concept of how, like in accounting, we have the balance sheet. We can also look at the balance sheet of life. And the book I'm talking about is this one. I don't think I really need to introduce this author. I'm sure many of you would have heard about Gaur Gopal Das. He has studied engineering in Pune. He worked in HP for a while. And then for the last 22 years, he has been a monk. He has been working in Mumbai. And today he works as a life coach for so many people all across the world, transforming lives. And ever since he went online in 2016, he became very popular. And I'm sure many of you would have seen a lot of his video clips in YouTube, on Instagram, and so many other places. And this is his first book, which is Life's Amazing Secrets: How to Find a Balance and Purpose in Your Life. Now, I would like to tell you one thing which might be playing on your minds. Most of us, when we see that orange color clothing, we tend to assume, oh my God, maybe something religious, maybe something spiritual. But let me tell you one thing. This book has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with spirituality. It has just, he has just offered in his very easy, simple language with a lot of fun and humor built in. He has just given us a view of how we can probably look to find the balance in our respective lives. And in this book, he has talked about 4 things which he feels are like the 4 wheels of a particular car. If you actually read the book, you will see that he has taken the example of a car and he has said that the car of life has 4 wheels. Now, I don't own a car, and in fact, I don't even know how to drive a car properly. So that example didn't really set well with me. So having worked in Tally for the last 8 years, now you tend to relate each and everything to things like balance sheet and profit and loss account and stuff like that. So I gave it my own thought and I came up with the logic of the balance sheet of life. So as you all must be aware, the balance sheet in general has 2 columns. It has a liabilities column and it has an assets column. So the first thing which comes in the liabilities section is basically what we call as the capital assets. I think in many aspects, our life is a capital asset. We are here in this world for only a particular period of time. We might feel that the life belongs to us, but actually it doesn't. It belongs to some higher being who is there somewhere upstairs. You call it God, you call it Ram, you call it Allah, give it whatever name you will. But it actually belongs to that superpower up there. We are just living a temporary life here on Earth. So this is a liability for us. We are here in Earth for some time and then we go upstairs. What we do with our life, how we conduct ourselves in our life is extremely important. The second thing is, of course, our work life. I'll just share one small thing. I've been to many meetings outside where I would have met people from other organizations or from other fields of life. And whenever I've asked them to introduce themselves, most of the people tend to introduce themselves that I am so-and-so and I work at so-and-so company. An important thing to understand here is that our life is not work. Work is just one small part of who we are. Work is one identity out of the many other identities that we have. And therefore, work life is also one such small aspect. This work life is also going to be till the time you turn 58 or 60 or whatever the retirement age is. After that, you'll have a life as well. So work life also comes into the liabilities column. If you're looking at the asset side of things, probably the two things which will be lifelong assets for you. And again, as you are well aware, a balance sheet has two types of assets: current assets and fixed assets or long-term assets. Current assets we can categorize relationships. There are some relationships which are very dear to us, very near to us: our parents, our spouses, our children, and then you have extended family, relatives, so many other people out there, friends, colleagues, and these relationships are there in our entire life course. Sometimes there are certain relationships which will be there towards the beginning, towards the end. These are all short-term phases in our lives. So those are the short-term assets, and then you have the long-term assets, which is the social contributions. I think a very important part of what our life should constitute of, all the ways in which we give back to society, are some of those things where we will be able to have a social contribution, and those will be our long-term assets. And if some of you believe in the concept of karma, if some of you believe in the concept of reincarnation, yes, some of our good deeds may pass on to our next life, and hopefully we should be able to reap some benefit out of that. So that's the way I have visualized the balance sheet of life, with your liabilities being your personal life, your work life, your assets being your relationships, and your social contributions. This book, written by Gaur Gopal Das, has helped me to evaluate each of these 4 areas. And today I want to share some of these 4 areas with you. So we'll start with that. So we'll start first with personal life. And when we speak about personal life, 3 things that Gaur Gopal Das has mentioned about is that in our life we should grow through gratitude, we should know when to press pause, and why worry. So starting with the first idea of growing through gratitude. So our mind has a default setting to be obsessed about the one negative thing and ignoring the many positives in our life. So it is almost like as if a seed is stuck on your tooth. I'm sure many of you would have had the experience. And when that happens, you kind of struggle with your tongue to get that seed out of your tooth. And it is horrible. But for a moment, our mind stops to realize that apart from that one problem-full tooth, there are 31 problem-less teeth also, which are doing absolutely great. We obsess about that one negative, and we tend to forget noticing the many positives which are there in our life. So that is something which we need to be aware about. We must have a positive state of mind while dealing with problems. And we have to think continuously that, is there anything positive about the situation I am in? And what best example I can talk to you about apart from this coronavirus situation and the lockdown situation? It is horrible. I know, especially I can tell you my personal example. I'm generally a person who likes to connect with people, likes to go and talk to people. Even when I'm in office, you won't really find me sitting at my desk continuously for a long time. I'll be there for 15-20 minutes, walk around for 5 minutes, come back. Because I really have to, go out there and connect with people in order to really keep myself balanced. And in this area, in this situation, I'm not able to do that. But the thing is that you have to look at the positive also in the middle of all this situation. And the positive is, I'm sure each and every one of us are getting to spend so much of time with our families. Sometimes we are not able to do that. So each of us are able to have so much of mind space right now. We are able to think about some of the things which we may have ignored in our respective lives. We are able to think about those things. So this is a positive in a negative situation as well. And being positive does not mean that we neglect the negative. So when we are talking about that, we must focus on the positive also, it does not mean that we completely tell ourselves, stay positive, and then we turn up blind spots to all the negative things in our life. That is not what it means. We should come out with a way to constructively handle all the negative situations as well. Another small example that I can share with you from my personal life is back in December, me and my family, we had planned this tour to Europe, and we were supposed to catch a flight to Paris on the 28th of April. And unfortunately, we couldn't do that because of the coronavirus, and the lockdown happens. And now, if today 8 to 9 hours of my day go in work, I'm spending 1 hour of my day every single day trying to work out stuff with the Qatar Airlines and the Thomas Cooks of the world trying to find out what is the solution, will they give me a refund? And believe me, it is not a good experience. But the thing is, it is there and you have to deal with it. The idea here is that when you're dealing with such difficult situations, you don't get bogged down. You also recognize the fact that there are so many other positive things around you, and you take a constructive call to deal with these negative things in the right spirit. And the last point in this section is that gratitude. What is exactly gratitude? Gratitude is a state of mind that allows you to see the positive. It helps you to realize that there is good in the world, there is good right with you also, even if you are going through difficult situations and difficult times. So if you read the book, you will find that Gaur Gopal Das has described the situation of a particular family whose 2-year-old daughter is suffering from cancer, and how they initially felt that how are they really going to handle everything? How are they really going to make sure that she goes through all this treatment? How are they going to make sure that the rest of the family sees through this difficult time? And they were overwhelmed by the love and the support that they got from all the people around them, you know, their friends, their relatives, even doctors at the hospital. In fact, there was such a sweet episode in the book where the daughter is supposed to celebrate her 3rd birthday, and the entire school comes to the hospital and decorates the hospital room, and they're able to celebrate a birthday. All these moments will help you to feel more gratitude towards the situation you are in, more gratitude towards what you are currently, and it will help you through the difficult times. So that is the point about growing through gratitude, one of the important pillars of what you do in your personal life. Moving on to the next section is pressing pause. One very important aspect of our life is that we should learn how to press pause and reflect sometimes on what we are grateful for. Unfortunately, in this fast-paced times, we are very used to, you know, like horses have these blinkers. We are just used to putting some blinkers and we go through life in a rush. We don't really pause and consider and reflect on things. It's not that we don't have the ability to do it. We have the ability, but somehow, given our current work priorities or personal life priorities, we choose not to reflect on that. And there's a great example which is mentioned in the book. I'm sure many of you would have heard of this world famous violinist called Joshua Bell. And he did an experiment once, and I'm sure you must have seen similar experiments on YouTube. So Joshua Bell, he has done this concert in, I think, in London, and people are paying some $100, $200 to come and actually hear him play the violin. And a few days later, what he does is he just disguises himself and he comes to this busy street somewhere in London and he plays the violin. And after 1 hour of playing the violin, there were some 7 people in that entire duration of 1 hour who actually stood there and they heard him playing the violin. So that tells us that, you know, it is the same Joshua Bell who played in the concert for which people paid $200 to attend. It's the same Joshua Bell who stood on the streets and he played the violin. And people just, you know, ignored because they did not know that it was the world famous Joshua Bell. They just heard it. They just thought, okay, not a big deal. And they went on with their lives. And what have they missed out on? They missed out on a free concert given by Joshua Bell in the middle of the street. So sometimes life also has certain kind of moments like this where we must pause and we must reflect on what we are grateful for. And there is a mechanism. There's a mechanism of starting to practice gratitude. And Gaur Gopal Das tells us about 3 things which we can do. One is we can recognize the good that has been done onto you. Think about all those instances in your life when somebody somewhere would have done something good for you. And I'm sure such people exist. Second is remembering the good and meaning it. It is not just enough to simply recognize the good at that point in time and forget it. When I'm talking about recognizing the good, I mean about things like somebody opens the door for you and you say thank you. Involuntarily, you say thank you. Somebody gets you a plate of food, you say thank you. We must also remember the good. Somebody has done something good for you in the past, you remember it. And finally, you reciprocate through your actions. Not only for the person who has done that good onto you, but also for other people around you to whom you can pass it through your action, and you can also pass that spirit of gratitude. So that's also very much important. And the third point is Gaur Gopal Das has actually come up with an excellent method of making sure that we feel grateful every day. and he has invented something called as a gratitude log, or you can call it, in Tally language, you can call it a gratitude daybook, where you can actually write down all those instances in today on a daily basis, which were those moments where you felt really grateful for something that somebody has done for you. So this was all about the second pillar of your personal life, which is learning how to press pause, learning how to feel gratitude, and making sure that you never forget it, but you remember it and you reciprocate it for someone else. And the third part is why worry? And my gut feeling is that many of you would have heard of this concept before, probably in some of Gaur Das videos, or probably on you would have seen diagrams of it either on the internet or somewhere else. So why worry? Trying to control things which are beyond our control is useless. That is one thing which I strongly believe in. I think we have to have a very clear-cut understanding of all the things around us, and we need to have that knowledge and that wisdom to understand that which of these things are within our control and which of these things are beyond our control. If you read the book, Gaur Gopal Das has spoken about one particular incident which impacted him, where he was, where one particular video of his was taken completely out of context and was used somewhere else. And initially he got very fidgety and he got very tensed, like, will I not be sued for this? But then later he realized it is something which is totally not out of his control. The second thing is, what we see as bad today can turn out to be a good thing later. And this is something which is very easy for me to tell you now on the webcast, but it is something which is very difficult to understand and accept in our lives. And if I have to tell you about one example, which even Gaur Gopal Das has mentioned, I can tell you about Brian Acton, whom we all know as the founder of WhatsApp. Brian Acton had actually applied for jobs at Twitter. He got rejected. He applied at jobs for Facebook. He got rejected. And then because he got rejected, he and some of his friends, they got together, they put their minds together and they created WhatsApp. And I think the rest, what happened, we all know the rest is history. He built WhatsApp. It turned out to be the next best thing. And WhatsApp was soon acquired by the same Facebook, which had rejected a job to him so many years back. So what we see as bad today can turn out to be a very good thing later. So we should not necessarily worry every single time something bad happens to us. Somewhere we need to keep a faith that it is going to be something good at a later point in time. And then one of my favorite diagrams, Gaur Gopal Das asks us to follow this flowchart. Do you have a problem? Yes, I have a problem. Can you do something about it? Yes. If you can't do something about it, no, then don't worry. And if you don't have a problem, don't worry. So no matter what the situation is, whether you have a problem, and if you have a problem, whether you can solve it or whether you can't solve it, the answer still remains the same, that there is no need to worry. So the third pillar in the personal life, which is why to worry, we can just keep a very calm and composed mind and go through life. So that brings us to the end of the first component of our life, the first component of the balance sheet of our life, of the car of our life, which was personal life. So now from the liability side, we will jump to the asset side and we will talk about the second wheel, the second component of the balance sheet of life, which is relationships. And when it comes to relationships, the author Gaur Gopal Das has spoken about 5 things: speaking sensitively, having a virtuous vision, correcting with caution, forgiving, and the importance of association. So let us just go through these 5 aspects one by one. So when it comes to speaking sensitively, the first point that he says is that we must be sensitive with our own words and actions. Being sensitive means to think about how the other person may feel before we say or we do something. Again, another point which is easier said than done. We often don't realize the implications of what we are about to say, but what we say, what we express can come out in a very wrong manner to people whom we are interacting with. So the thing is, whenever we want to communicate something to someone, can we build in a little bit more sensitivity? Can we just run it through in our minds once and see whether the intent of what we want to communicate can come through? That is one thing, which is to be sensitive with our own words and actions. And again, how do we practice being insensitive? How do we practice being sensitive? Sorry. And here I found something which was really amazing. And what Gaur Gopal Das says that the easiest way to practice being sensitive is to start treating inanimate objects with respect. So that was a life-changing thing for me. So what he's saying is that today, if you are working with this laptop, if you're working with this mouse, even the laptop charger, the mobile, whatever is the inanimate objects around you, the glass from which you drink water, treat even them with the basic respect. It's a great way to practice being sensitive. He is of the opinion that if you start by treating even inanimate objects with respect, sooner or later, that mentality of being sensitive will flow into your relationships as well. And if you continue to treat objects with disrespect, he is of the opinion that soon that will also translate into negativity into your relationships. If you treat things badly, it will percolate into negativity in personal relationships, and it can affect who we are. It can affect our equations with people. So that was the first pillar in the second aspect, which was the personal relationships. Moving on to the next pillar, having a virtuous vision. And this is a very interesting point. Seeing the best in people can be challenging, especially when we are constantly in touch with them. And I couldn't agree more. I think all of you know that. I can bet my life on this fact that today all of you are working in various teams spread across Tally. I am sure that you would have got irritated more with your immediate teammates than with some other person sitting on the other side of the company in a completely different random department. I can vouch for it. It is just that when we are constantly in touch with people, we kind of start taking them for granted. And it is because of that that we slowly start being more critical of their shortcomings. We start becoming more critical of their the things which they are not doing great, rather than seeing what is best in them. So we need to start having a virtuous vision where we start seeing the best in people, even those people whom we are constantly in touch with. The second point is to do with how we perceive people. And there are 5 categories of people who exist in this world, which Gaur Gopal Das has mentioned. We can perceive people in the following 5 ways. We can see only the bad and we can magnify it. We can see the good and we can see the bad, but we neglect the good and we focus on the bad. Third is we can see the good and the bad and be neutral to both. See good and the bad, we choose to focus on the good and we neglect the bad, or we try to find out a way to deal with the bad. And the final point is we see the good alone and we magnify it. So what he seems to be saying is that the ideal stage is the 4th stage, in which you see both good and bad, you choose to focus on the good, but you neglect the bad, or you find out a way to deal with the bad. And he believes that this is the only way in which the relationships can flourish. And in terms of examples, if I have to share with you, he has some really funny examples which he talks about here. When he talks about those people who see only the bad and they magnify it, he talks about this wife who complains to her husband. She points at the neighbor, the wife who's the neighbor, and she tells that, you know, this lady doesn't even know how to wash clothes properly. The clothes are dirty all the time. Look at her. She's just, you know, they're not even clean and she's just hanging it out there to dry. And the husband doesn't say anything. And after a few days, the wife again observes the neighbor and says, my God, look at that. The clothes are absolutely spick and span. I'm sure she must have got somebody else to do it because she doesn't have the talent to wash clothes so nicely. And then the husband got up and said, dear, I just cleaned the windows of our house today in the morning. So this is how people are. The people who see only the bad and they magnify it, they get stuck in that cycle and they can't get out of it. So we need to break that cycle and we need to see if we can focus both on the good and the bad and choose to focus on the good and see how we can manage the bad that comes to us. So that was all about having a virtuous vision, the second pillar in relationships. Moving on to the third pillar, which is correcting with caution. And when it comes to correcting with caution, I think the first point that all of us must remember and which Gaur Gopal Das has stressed is avoid saying things in anger. it damages our relationships. And I can tell you some n number of examples from my personal life where I would have done something which is absolutely correct. I was absolutely correct in giving the feedback which I was about to give. But the only mistake I did was I said those things in anger and it spoiled everything. It damaged the relationship with the person to whom I gave the feedback. And that has taught me over a period of time that there is no need to be angry when you're giving a feedback. A feedback is nothing but an observation. It needs to be given in a calm mind. It needs to be received in a calm mind as well. And at the same time, there are certain techniques that we can probably use for giving feedback. We need to invest praise and trust into a person before feedback. And this is one thing which I've learned from a beloved colleague of mine who is no longer in Tally anymore. But he has always taught me one thing, that Pramit, even when you're talking to someone, when you're giving feedback, or even when you're providing any feedback to anyone on mail, always make sure that the first line is something good. Thank that person, acknowledge whatever that person has done. After that, you say, but you know what? This is also what I felt. Probably this is something that we can improve. Doing that automatically makes that person feel that you are actually on the side of that person and that you're not really pinpointing him or her, but you're rather pinpointing at the problem. At the same time, we need to look at the other side of the situation also. If we feel hurt when someone scolds us, then we also need to think how much that individual has done for you in the past. Is that person simply scolding us for the fun of it, or whether that person is really scolding us because somewhere he or she cares about what you do. And over here, I can actually go ahead and tell my personal example. Social media marketing is something which I have picked up fairly recently in the scheme of things. I started handling it full time at Tally only from April or May of last year. And it has been a huge learning curve from me. And the work has been challenging. And sometimes what happens is that in between managing 10 different handles and putting the content out there, sometimes what happens is that sometimes I will make some small mistakes here and there, a small spelling mistake somewhere, or probably some kind of a post which was supposed to be posted in a particular way doesn't really go out as planned. And as soon as that happens, I immediately get a feedback from people around me, be it from my boss or be it from people around me who come back and tell me, what is this and why have you done it like this? It is very important to not take it personally. It's very important to take it in the right spirit and understand that these people are telling you for your own good. If you have that mindset, it'll be much easier for you to even correct someone with caution and also to receive the feedback with a lot of caution. So that is something which we must implement in our life as well. And here is one technique which Gaur Gopal Das has shared. Before giving corrective feedback, please ask yourself a few questions. Am I the right person to give corrective feedback? Do I have the right motive to give corrective feedback? Am I giving feedback because you know what, 10,000 years back, this guy had told me something really bad about a project which I had done, and now it is my turn to go back and take revenge on him, and let me also give feedback and just take revenge. Is that the motive, or you really want to give feedback to somebody to help that person improve on what they are currently doing? Thirdly, do I know the right way to give the corrective feedback? And lastly, and most importantly, friends, is it the right time to give the feedback? Your feedback can be the greatest feedback in the world, and you might have the right motive. You might know the best way to give corrective feedback. But sometimes we must also be cognizant of whether the time is right to give the corrective feedback. A corrective feedback given at the wrong time can also prove to be counterproductive. And implementing all these things will take time because unfortunately, because of the way life runs around us, we have got into a cycle where we just end up giving insensitive feedback at the wrong time. It has become a part of our second nature. So it will take some time to implement all this, what Gaur Gopal Das has said. But if we put our minds to it, we can probably do a good job. So that was the third part of the second cycle, which is that of relationships. The next thing is about forgiveness. So when you talk about forgiveness, he has some amazing things to talk about. The four things which he has asked us to keep in our mind if we want to really forgive someone. That is, number one, look beyond the situation. uh, when somebody has done something wrong towards you, somebody might have shouted at you, they might have told something really bad to you. Pause for a moment and think about what has made that person do like that. Is that person also probably suffering from some problem? Might be the reason. So he's telling us that look beyond the situation for a while and try to understand why this happened, why the person is behaving like that. The second thing, which I find extremely powerful, a statement, which is separate the episode from the person. Whenever something goes wrong, we usually have a tendency. The ones who are amongst us who are a little bit on the meeker side, we have a tendency of saying, hey, sorry, yaar, it is my mistake. Yaar. Some of us who are a little bit on the aggressive side, we will take the tone of, hey, it's your fault, man. It's your mistake. What Gaur Gopal Das is telling is, there is no need to say it is my mistake. There is no need to say it is your mistake. Just say it is the mistake which has happened. It is the problem which has happened. Let us together try to solve. Separate the episode from the person. Don't call it my problem, your problem. Call it the problem. Separate the problem from the person. Third is, while forgiving someone, try to look for a higher purpose. Don't look for petty revenge. Look for that whether is there any higher purpose that you're achieving by forgiving this person. And fourth is, what about justice? Yes, one very important thing with Gaur Gopal Das is that I am not telling you to wear orange color clothes and become a Mahatma and then forgive each and everyone around you, irrespective of whatever crime they have done against you. No, that is not the idea. The idea is you forgive. You forgive for the satisfaction, for the peace of your own personal self. But justice is also an important part of this entire thing. If people have done something genuinely wrong, they must also fully face the implications of their actions. Justice has to be an integral part of the forgiveness process. And again, he has come up with this superb thing called as the forgiveness worksheet, which is there in this book, which takes you through a detailed questionnaire, which probably can help you if you are wanting to forgive someone, even if it is from a recent incident or something which happened in the past. So the fourth point in the second pillar of relationships. And finally, association matters. Our associations can uplift us or bring us down, which is so true because, as they say, a man is known by the associations that he keeps. Three exchanges that can create meaningful associations: exchanging gifts, exchanging food, and exchanging thoughts. And it is a cycle. When two people become friends, it starts from that. I'm sure all of you would have, might have gone back to your memories from school life where you started becoming friends with another person. You gave a rubber to someone, somebody gave you a sharpener, and then you exchange notes. That's how the friendship, it kind of begins. And then as you become more closer friends, you invite each other to your respective homes. You invite each other for lunch and dinner, so that you get into exchanging food. And finally, you start exchanging your thoughts, your beliefs, your insecurities. You start exchanging your ideas, and that is where the association really reaches. So that was all about association matters, and that was about the second part of the balance sheet of our life, which is relationships. Now we will move on to the third part of our balance sheet, coming back to the liabilities side, which is our work life. And when it comes to work life, Gaur Gopal Das has talked about competition. He has talked about self-discovery, spirituality at work, and integrity. So quickly going through these points as well, when we look at competition crossroads. So when it comes to competition, these are some of the points that Gaur Gopal Das has to say. He says, avoid unhealthy competition. Being envious of someone or doing something out of revenge is never going to work out. Or being, or having uncontrolled ambition is also another reason why people indulge in unhealthy competition. Competition is not necessarily a bad thing. It is found in all aspects of life, be it sports or politics or business. We need to compete with ourselves rather than competing with others. And the last point is that there will be politics wherever you go. It is just that you have to learn to manage it in a very, very clean way. It might be difficult. Again, easier said than done. It might be difficult, but there is a way where you can probably keep yourself isolated from all these politics. Just focus on being a better version of yourself, and rest of the things will fall into place and take care of itself. The second point that he has talked about in work life is self-discovery. It's very important to first understand what is your purpose. And finding your purpose is not a life-changing moment where suddenly God will appear in front of you, some heavenly light will fall on your face, and you will say, oh, this is the purpose of my life. It is not like that. It is a journey that is there. And a very interesting thing that he has talked about in this book, again, a diagram that many of you may have already seen. It is called as drawing your Ikigai map. What is that one thing which is a common factor between your passion, your profession, your mission, your vocation? What is that one thing which probably is the intersection point of all these things? What you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for. If you can figure out that one thing, which is the intersection of all these areas, that is what you are meant to do in this world, and that is something which you should be doing. And also he has a very quick tip for people. People might come back and say, hello, I'm 30 years old now, I'm 40 years old now I can't go about searching my life's purposes. I have bills to pay, I have a family to raise. Great. If you are not willing to invest the time right now in your 30s and 40s to find that purpose in your life, you must find a way to love what you do. What you're doing currently, I'm sure there is 80 to 90% of things which you really love to do, and there are 5 to 10% of the things which you might not really like, but there's a way of managing that as well. And you need to keep doing something which you're passionate about always, so that you stay motivated and you're able to discover your true self. Moving on to the next question, which is spirituality at work. Now, there are so many misconceptions when it comes to that word spirituality. And I think the two myths which Gaur Gopal Das has spoke about in this particular book is that myth number one, spirituality kills our ambitions and zest to achieve. Wrong. Spirituality does not mean that you kill your ambitions. It is just that you want to be successful for different reasons. One is you want to be successful because you want to earn more money, you want to lead a better quality of life. And one is you want to be successful because you want to reach a position where you are able to help others. That is what is being called being successful and being spiritual at the same time. Myth number two, spiritual people get walked over in the business because of their values. Again, a wrong idea. It is absolutely possible to be a very, very professional and a very business oriented person at the same time being spiritual. It is just that we have to stick to our values, we have to stick to what we believe in, and we have to take life's journey ahead. Here he has talked about that famous story which we would have heard in our childhood days, the story of the snake and the sage, and how the sage advises the snake, why are you biting these innocent villagers? Please don't bite them. And the snake stops biting everyone. The villagers start taking advantage of that and they trample on top of the snake. And then the sage comes back and says, I didn't stop you to hiss. So all I'm telling you, don't bite, but make sure that your hiss is there, which scares people away. So there is a way of being absolutely professional, absolutely business minded. At the same time, you can be spiritual. Be aware of the potential of money to distract you from your true purpose. That's another thing which he has talked about, and which is something which we need to also keep in mind as we conduct ourselves in work. And finally, integrity and character. Philosophy without good character is of no value. And when he's talking about developing a good character or practicing integrity, which is of course it's not something strange to us. Honesty and integrity, of course, being one of our key values. The principles of developing good character are, first, you're starting having thoughts, you act on those thoughts, and ultimately what you act actually sets an examples for all others around you. So that is an important aspect of building true character and leading your life with integrity. So that was all about the third aspect of our balance sheet, which was about work life. And finally, we come to the last aspect, the last item on our balance sheet, which is our long-term asset, our fixed asset, which is the power and the value of social contribution. When we're talking about social contribution, Gaur Gopal Das talks about selfless sacrifice, starting with the family and then going beyond, and then the fact that service brings joy. When you're talking about selfless sacrifice, there's this interesting story of the ice cream and the candle. So he has built something called as the ice cream and the candle scale. So the ice cream philosophy is enjoy it before it melts. And the candle's philosophy is that it is my job to light up the entire world till I melt. Ice cream signifies selfishness, candle signifies selflessness. Slowly but certainly, we must try to move from being selfish towards being selfish. At the same time, we must be aware or beware of compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue means that when we start putting ourselves down, we start putting pressures on ourselves and start going out there and try to help others. One very important fact with Gaur Gopal Das has spoken about, and which I can testify with my own life, is if you are not happy yourself, you cannot spread happiness to others. You cannot do great things for others if you are rushed up inside, if your own life is out of balance. So beware of compassion fatigue. It is something which is extremely important. The second important point is when we talk about things like charity, we often have an idea that I need to go to this NGO, which is 25 miles away, and I need to go and contribute meals for children who are staying there. It need not necessarily be so. Selfless service can start from home. It need not be a stupendous act. It can even be a small act of kindness. And here Gaur Gopal Das has told a very interesting story, which I'm sure most of you may have heard, the story of the Baramati Marathon, and how one lady called as Lata Khare, she's a 65-year-old lady, she participated in the Baramati Marathon in order to win the prize money, in order to buy medicines for her husband and to do a very critical surgery for her husband. Nobody believed that she would win that race, but she participated in that marathon being a 65-year-old grandmother, and she defeated everyone there in the Baramati Marathon. Selfless service needs not be such a stupendous act like this. Even telling your spouse thank you for the meal that he or she is giving to you, even acknowledging the person who comes to your doorstep and collects the garbage. In these times of Corona, the person who brings vegetables to your door, even telling a small thank you to that person. These are small acts of kindness that you can start with. You can start with your family, then you can go to your immediate society, you can go to the community, you can go to the nation. The circle of selflessness should extend beyond, starting from family and then extending to the nation. And the last and final point, which he talks about as well as social contribution is concerned, is a beautiful line, which is a quotation by Muhammad Ali, that service is nothing but the rent we pay for our time on earth. And having that spiritual aspect to the service that you are doing actually does wonders to what we are doing for others. When we truly empathize with others, we serve at the highest level, and that is what brings joy. One way of serving is that you keep yourself at an arm's distance from the people you are serving, and then you feel good about, yeah, theek hai, I have contributed X amount of money, I have done some service at some bhojanalay or something like that, and you go back home with that feeling. Another way is really to empathize and think, what really is the problem area? What are the things that these people are really suffering from? Can I do something for them? And when you actually finally manage to do something from them with that mindset, that is what brings you true joy. So a simple formula that Gaur Gopal Das has told us, that you must learn to do the right action with the right intention and in the right mindset. If you can crack these three things together, you will be able to do service at the highest level, and that will truly bring the real joy for you. So that's what he talks about. So yes, that is all about the book. If you please don't go by whatever I have spoken here today in today's webinar. It is basically the words of a person who has just read the book, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around all the concepts that he has talked about. You should definitely hear it from the horse's mouth, and therefore if you want, you can get the book from Amazon Kindle. And Amazon has also launched something really amazing called their ebooks section, Audible, which is basically their sound books. You can just plug in and you can hear the wonderful narration of Gaur Gopal Das, lovely soothing voice he has, and I'm sure that many of you will enjoy the narration of the book as well. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for listening in.